Welcome to the Paul Harrell program, everybody. We are live across platforms, including LFA TV. It is Monday, and it has been quite the weekend. When we last signed off, when I last saw you, we did not have a war in Iran or a military operation in Iran. I've been monitoring that. Some people, is it a war? Is it a military operation? At this point, it really doesn't matter. We're going to get into it, but honestly, for any time that we have something like this, where there is this giant event that is changing, and it's also extremely fluid, trying to figure out all of the different moving parts behind this situation. I always want to get down to practical solutions or practical applications, and in this case, because of what we saw in Austin, Texas, and we have heard for years about potential sleeper cells, aligned with varying terrorist groups, but obviously one of those has been Iran. Just from me to you, from this program to you, please keep your head on a swivel. Please be safe. If you see something, say something. Be very careful, and now is the time, if you haven't already, but especially if you live in a Second Amendment state where, owning a firearm is considered your right, now is the time to protect yourself and protect others. It really is always that, but I'm just reminding you that this is something that we can do to make sure we are more safe as we go towards what are looking to be uncertain times. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to also just talk about, in general, everything that's going on. What are the reasons behind this? Marco Rubio briefing Congress earlier today, then going out and having a press conference earlier today. We have Pete Hegseth giving a speech about this situation in Iran, the war in Iran. We're going to try to cover it as best we can and bring you the news. And happy Monday. All things considered, happy Monday. I hope you had a blessed Lord's Day, and we're going to get into it right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, I want to remind everybody, you like, share, subscribe this video, do all the things regardless of where you are watching. We really very much appreciate it. And as always, I've got my co-host with me, Rob Spencer. Rob.
Paul, it's an honor to be in the studio. Sorry I missed on Friday, but it was chaotic in real estate, as you can imagine. As we entered the springtime, unfortunately, that's gonna be something that happens. So as it will be tomorrow, but the good Eric Haynes will be in studio tomorrow. Did anything happen over the weekend?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Did I miss it? I feel like I missed something.
I was up pretty late on Friday, and so I guess about 1 or 2 in the morning I was still up, and I checked my phone right before bed, and it seems like that's when it always happens. Matter of fact, that's the exact same thing that happened when the attack on Iran, when we bombed the nuclear facilities or whatever last time. I found out kind of basically as it was happening.
We're going to talk about the different groups of individuals who have opposition or in favor of. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, over the next couple of hours. We are with you for 2 hours tonight, so stay tuned. Looking forward to that. But anyway, so you've got all of these factions here, and they always say that there's 3 sides to every story. His, hers, and the truth, if you want to go with the couple analogy. But anyway, there's always this middle ground here. And I find myself torn. I have found myself torn ever since I woke up Saturday morning, saw the news, and was trying to figure out, how do I feel about this? Is it another Venezuela situation where, hey, we went in there, we got this criminal, this fugitive, for the United States? Is it that type of situation, or is it Iraq 3.0, I guess you would call it, right? Because we had these 2 Iraqi wars. So where is it? And is it somewhere in between? I don't know, but I can tell you this. There are some America first and America only patriots on the right who are saying, this is terrible, this is awful, we do not need to be involved. And then you've got the crazy leftists over here that will protest everything. Literally, Trump could do anything And they are going to protest it because they are being funded, and they've got the signs. All they do is they switch it out. Venezuela, they switched it. I mean, now it's Iran. Like, you don't even know what you believe. You're just a shill for the left. You're so stupid. You don't even you are not a functioning adult from a perspective of the fact that you're not capable of critical thinking. I'm not the smartest person in the world. I would say I'm of average intelligence. But I can tell you this, no one controls my thinking on every single solitary topic. I feel this way about this. I feel this way about this. And so we're going to kind of see these factions. You've got these people on the right, America first, America only, no intervention, all of that stuff. The people on the left, Trump did it, so I'm against it. I think the majority of folks are somewhere in between.
Yeah. No, I definitely think you're right about that. And you know, I'll just be totally transparent. One of the main reasons that I voted for Trump, certainly the third time, but you know, the other two as well, was because I'm, you know, kind of exhausted with the foreign policy that I grew up with. As somebody who's 41 years old, going to turn 42 this year. And I think a lot of people kind of thought, yeah, okay, like maybe this. I don't want to start another 20-year war. Now, Pete Hegseth knows this because in his speech today, that's exactly what he said. He was like, look, this is not going to be another forever war. That's not what this is going to be. You know, we're going to basically bomb them back, and these are my words, bomb them back to the Stone Age and come home. The issue becomes, with a lot of the stuff I'm reading is you've got Iran, who is not like Iraq was back in the day. They're armed to the teeth. And so now it looks like that the mission seems to be to just completely demilitarize Iran, which is a tall order. Okay, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And honestly, at this point, like as we stand now, I mean, what we've been at war for 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that. It is still too early to actually, I think, ascertain what exactly the outcome is going to be. Obviously, we know the Arab countries in the region, they're being bombarded by Iran.
Sure.
We know Israel is being bombarded. We also know that our missiles are still, attacking Iran and having success. We've got a tweet out there where I saw a report where all of Iran's 11 ships, naval vessels that were in the area have been destroyed or have been sunk. And I don't know if that's true. That would, I'm seeing the reports of that, and I want to hedge my bets here because one of the things that I've learned on X, especially over the weekend, is I would see a report, and then it would turn out not to be true. So you just kind of got to wait and see how this is going. Now, I think ground troops are going to be a bridge too far for a lot of people.
I believe that as well.
But the administration is saying we're not ruling it out, and I think they're saying they're not ruling it out because why would you tell your enemy where your limits are, right? I mean, I get a lot of that. I also understand the idea of Monday morning quarterbacking something like there's just a lot of information that we don't know, we don't have access to, and that's one of the reasons the buck's got to stop somewhere, right?
Well, we were talking about it in our group text, and I just said, I think it's easy for us to look at this and say, is this what Trump ran on? And you would say, well, he said no new wars and all of that stuff. And then somebody would argue, is this a new war? I don't know. I don't know. I think honestly, only time will tell. But what did we see with the Israeli-Iranian conflict? That was Israel and realizing where the funding was coming from their primary enemy. Right? You had these insurgents, you had these terrorists that they're only, after October 7th, literally what they were trying to do is create as much chaos as possible. And so Israel, whether you agree with Israel or disagree with Israel and the biblical and all of that, there's so many different theologies that believe this and this and this. It doesn't matter. They are a country, right? A sovereign country. And they were seeing massive amounts of their people murdered what is it, 1,300 people that were just murdered. Now, there's all kinds of reports that maybe there wasn't that many and all of this stuff. But suffice it to say, I saw videos, and I believe that there were many people murdered on the day of that concert. Excuse me. And I think Israel had had enough. And they realized that these individuals, this militia, these chaos bringers, had a backing. And it was Iran. It's always Iran. It's not, well, I shouldn't say that it's always Iran, but there's a great multitude of times where it is Iran. And they've been a thorn in many people's sides for many, many years. And I struggle to believe that the Iranian regime and this regime change, when we've seen countless videos of people celebrating in the streets and dancing, and women taking, actually able to wear normal clothes and just celebrate. I struggle to believe, and it's the same thing that we saw after Venezuela, that it wasn't a good thing that the Ayatollah is gone and is no more, right? What it leads to next.
This is the question.
Correct.
Yeah.
What it leads to next is ultimately going to decide whether this was a good or a bad thing.
Yeah. And I will just add that we can reserve my commentary for later because we're going to get into it. But let's start with the sleeper cells, okay? Because this is the immediate thing that I was worried about, right? Is first of all, how many sleeper cells are there? Are they activated? And I think we can pretty confidently say that what happened in Austin, Texas over the weekend was a direct result of Khamenei being killed by the attack. And now we have these reports. Let me throw this up on the screen here. This headline, U.S.-based terror sleeper cells could be ramping up after attack on Iran, on high alert. This according to the New York Post. Terrorist sleeper cells, possibly aided by Democrats' open border policies, could be gearing up in the U.S. to retaliate for the joint U.S.-Israel airstrikes against Iran. Counterintelligence experts be warned. Now, this is why just keep your head on a swivel, be vigilant.
Yeah.
If you are trained or you have a firearm you're comfortable with, carry your firearm. The different states here in Arkansas, we have open or concealed carry, permitless carry, and so just do that because things could get pretty crazy out there, and I think that's what we saw in Austin. As a matter of fact, Pete Hegseth, after he gave his press conference, he fielded a question on the sleeper cell issue, and this is what it sounded like.
Concerns about Iranian sleeper cells and kind of what has the Trump administration been doing to kind of monitor these?
Well, across the interagency, in full coordination, of course, we're paying attention to any potentialities there. This is a former regime, that seeks to export that ideology and try to sow terror. We're ready for that. We've seen these types of folks before, and the American people can rest assured that we're vigilant on that.
Secretary, thank you. Kind of follow up on that last question. There was just this, what appears to be a terrorist attack in Austin yesterday. How does that change the operation at all? What effect does that have? And
it doesn't change the operation at all, and I know the authorities are executing exactly the way they should.
Well, first of all, of course that wouldn't change the operation. Hey, because this happened, we're now going to, because you've already ripped that Band-Aid off. So the follow-up question, kind of stupid, actually. But in all seriousness, here's one of the victims of the Austin mass shooting, identified as a Texas Tech student. The New York Post, victims of Austin mass shooting identified, including Texas Tech student, 19 years old. Two Texas college students have been ID'd as the fatal victims of Sunday's mass shooting in Austin, with one dual degree standout and the other teen who was heartbreakingly mourned as the best brother. So this is, let's just be clear what this is. This is a real world cost for Americans here at home as we attacked abroad.
Well, I agree with that, Paul, but the other side of the coin is this sleeper cell, quote unquote sleeper cell, is already here.
Correct.
Just waiting on any sort of thing to act. And had they not had a reactionary sort of a reactionary response to what happened in Iran here in the United States. Could they have just been further planned? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, were their plans bigger, and they went ahead and acted out of anger and frustration at the United States attacks on Iran? We don't know that for sure.
Right.
But I think you're completely stupid and or naive if you don't believe that there are a ton of sleeper cells that are
It's a big
waiting.
deal.
They're literally waiting for the wind to blow a different direction before they're activated.
And I mean, I've always heard about this. I've always heard about, and I think it was always specifically because, there's been this, like you said, Iran, this potential conflict with Iran has been kind of floated out there for a long time, for at least the last 30, 40 years. And I've always heard about specifically Iran's sleeper cells and things like, how many Iranian sleeper cells own gas stations? Like what
I mean,
and no, exactly.
it's true.
And
It's true.
And what happens if, okay, you've killed the Ayatollah, there's now this all-out war back and forth. So we all get the nod, like set fire, like go set fire to all your gas stations all at once. All I'm saying is this type of stuff is a possibility.
You don't know
So keep your head on a swivel.
Well, and I don't know. Does that mean that there's going to be some more a modern day equivalent of Japanese internment camps? Because let's just on as terrible as that was, as awful as it was to just round up Japanese Americans or people who were just Japanese citizens living in America at that time during World War II. The United States just didn't know. They were negotiating with Japan in what they believed in good faith. And Japan cowardly attacked them at Pearl Harbor, killed 3,000 Americans. I can't remember the exact death toll. And so you would say, wow, how terrible it is that the United States. But
we were fundamentally willing to say that, Americans, like, Native Americans at that point, meaning people with that, we're going to prioritize their safety over what was at that time unknowable. We weren't able to ascertain, and so because of that, we want to make sure that the homeland is secure. Somebody in the chat at LFA TV actually said at the beginning of the show, and you'll have to forgive me because now
we're monitoring the chat. We're trying to keep
lost
up.
the comment, but basically that the home front, needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And honestly, these mass deportations that need to be more mass, it would have been nice if we would have had even more mass deportations up to this point to try to take care of this problem before this has happened. But that's a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world.
Well, I think as we start to track any of the fallout that has happened ever since Trump has been elected, and certainly for the next 3 years, any sort of sleeper cell activation, they're going to trace it back to when these individuals came into the country. And I believe that a lot of them have been here. I'm not trying to be naive and try to say that they all came in the last 4 years under Biden.
But a lot of them did.
They were unchecked. We were paying for them to be flown in here. It's absolutely asinine. Someone else said in the comments that it's not a war because Congress has not declared it. I want to remind you, although I understand where you're coming from, the United States never declared war against Vietnam. The last time that we truly declared war, I guess, I can't remember if we declared it for the Korean War.
I don't know. For all intents and purposes, though, the constitutional restraints and that whole constitutional question, fundamentally, I mean, has been ignored for so long that the cat's out of that bag.
But but the commenter's point is exactly correct here, and that is, it's not a war in what we now determine to be an actual war or not, and that is how many missiles did Obama drop? Way more than Trump ever has, probably times exponentially. Every single solitary president since the last time that we actually declared war has taken some sort of military action that wasn't authorized by Congress.
Yeah.
So what is a president's responsibility? And you've got actual sitting members of Congress, these Democrat lunatics that are going on all of the Sunday shows on Sunday. They even some of them even snuck on there on Saturday afternoon. and going on there, and this is an unconstitutional
Like they
military
care.
action.
Like
Like
they
they don't
care.
give a damn. Not a single solitary one of these jokers ever said anything when Obama was bombing people left and right. My God, he was killing American citizens with American bombs in foreign countries, and nobody gave a damn. Nobody cared. Nobody said a single solitary word because he had a D next to his name. You're trash, you're garbage, and I ain't listening to you. Now, we can agree or disagree that Trump made the right decision in taking out the Ayatollah of Iran. We can sit and debate that all we want to. But don't sit here and say that he did something unconstitutional when you didn't say a damn thing when Obama did it.
Yeah,
you
I
didn't
forgot
say
about
a
the,
single solitary thing.
I had forgotten about the, being judge, jury, executioner for American citizens just because they're outside the borders. I had actually totally forgotten about that. That's interesting. The Islamic terror attack in Austin killed 2, wounding 14. Okay, so and this is why we can know that this happened as a result. The guy's wearing the Property of Allah T-shirt, but Derek Evans, former J6er Derek Evans, posted that there's a photo that was obtained by Fox News of the Austin shooting suspect, Nagaga. Forgive me. Did they actually pronounce his name in this? I think they
Not
did.
not gonna work here
Not
anymore.
going to work here anymore.
That's for sure.
Like Na'inajad.
Say that 10 times fast.
With the Iranian flag that was underneath that hoodie. The shooter identified as Injaga Junya, a 53-year-old naturalized.
Jaga Junya.
Injaga Junya.
Jaga Junya.
All right,
So
sorry.
wearing the Iranian flag underneath, that is then conclusive evidence, as far as I know, as far as this journalist can tell, that, okay, this is a response to that, to the attack. And so that's why it is a real danger. Think of the beginning of this program. I just want it to be as much of a public service announcement as we possibly can be. Call your family, call everybody. Just make sure. There are some people walking around here today, probably your family members, that really don't even know what happened over the weekend still. Like, they have no idea. And so just in the interest of keeping more Americans alive and getting more eyes other places, just be vigilant, keep your head on a swivel. Now is the time to pay attention because it can save your life.
Head on a swivel is what I tell my wife all the time, and she is one of the most attentive persons people that I've ever met in my life. So it would shock me if my wife was caught off guard by something, but not everybody is that way, right? Yeah. And truth be told, I find myself drifting off because I've got 100 different things that come across my phone. I looked the other day, and I'm averaging about 30 to 40 phone calls per day. Well, so when each one of these phone calls pulls me in a different direction, well, just imagine if you're in Chicago, you're in Atlanta, you're in New York City, you're in these cities with a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot of things are happening, and you're just going about your daily life. You're running, taking your kids to daycare, running to the grocery store, and all of that stuff. And most of the time, we've just got our head down like, I got to go from A to B, and this is what I got to do next, and all of that stuff. Folks, this is not the time. And I'm not trying to say that we need to be on DEFCON 5 or whatever it is. But I can tell you this. If you don't think that the Austin, Texas, if you think that the Austin, Texas thing was an isolated incident, you're sadly mistaken, because I believe fully that the Iranians have already tried to kill President Trump. And if they're trying to kill the President of the United States, what do they care about blowing up a convention center in Chicago, blowing up the bridge and blowing up the Golden Gate Bridge? What the hell do they care? And they're going to do as much destruction as they can. That's who we're dealing with. People who want to create chaos and believe that they're going to have glory and there's 77 virgins whenever they go, because they're absolutely Satanist and they don't realize it.
So there is, to kind of follow up with this story, a new DHS memo is now cautioning about possible lone wolf attacks and cyber disruptions tied to the ongoing conflict through official site, though the official sites no specific credible threats at the time. So again, this is not just us. This is multiple people saying the exact same thing. So be careful is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Be very, very careful.
Well, and somebody's talking about the number of mosques here. Carl Ben J, you're absolutely correct when you're talking about 1970, right? So 50 6 years ago, there were just over 100 mosques here in the United States, but immigration and community growth led to hundreds more being built over the next year. Now we've got about 4,000 mosques. Now I've not fact checked that, but I have heard similar statistics, so I believe Carl is correct. Folks, they're already here. They're down the street. We live in a conservative Christian state. We've got an Islamic center just down the street here, Paul. Here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, we have an Islamic center. Now, are those people plotting and going to wear backpacks that, blow up and all that stuff?
We do not know.
We don't know.
That's the
We
answer.
don't know. And somebody would say, well, let's just say even if they did do that, Americans commit crimes too. Those are our problems.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't sit here like if my kids are at a party and all of these kids go and toilet paper houses and cause massive destruction and all of that stuff, I'm not in charge of those other kids. Their parents are. I'm in charge of my kids, so I can handle my home front. That's what I can handle. And the United States has not handled its home front.
Yeah.
It's allowed the third world to come here. We're already seeing it all over Michigan, Minnesota. They're coming in, committing fraud. They're laying low for the most part, right?
Yep.
But they're committing hundreds of millions, if not billions and billions of fraud. And they're just laughing. They're just laughing with briefcases full of money. Folks, we are asleep at the wheel, and we have been.
Yeah, we've put ourselves in danger. This was back in June of 2025. In June of 2025, we have CBS Morning News, the mainstream media, reporting this.
The Department of Homeland Security says Yusuf Meridano had been living in the United States illegally for nearly 8 years since U.S. officials determined he lied on a visa application. On Sunday, just 4 months after the Iranian foreign national was added to the U.S.'s known or suspected terrorist list, he was arrested in central Mississippi. He's now in ICE custody pending removal proceedings, and he's not alone. Over the past 48 hours, ICE officials have arrested 11 Iranian nationals spanning 8 states nationwide. Among them, 5 possessed previous criminal convictions, their crimes ranging from grand larceny to drug and firearm possessions. Also among those apprehended, Ribbar Karimi. ICE officials say they found his Islamic Republic of Iran Army identification card and allege he served as an Iranian sniper. The Department of Homeland Security says Yusuf Meridano.
So, again, that's June of 2025. That was just 11 of them. Yeah. They were here illegally, okay? Yeah. But the guy that shot up the Austin, Texas bar, he was here legally. He immigrated here, then he married somebody, and then became a naturalized citizen. So it's not it's very important to understand this is not just illegals. We're also talking about people here legally, and that is why the phrase denaturalization has got to become part of our vocabulary, and it just is what it is.
Well, you can call me a racist, you can call me this, you can call me that, but if I have to have phlegm in my throat to properly pronounce your name, you can get the hell out. Get the hell out. Call me whatever you want to call me. Call me whatever you want to call me. If I go to some other country and they say, "Oh, Rob Spencer," that sounds way too British for me, which is where I'm from the I guess England, would be my ancestors. Princess Diana, her maiden name was Spencer, so I guess I'm related to her. I don't know. But suffice it to say that if we're struggling to pronounce your name and you have not acclimated into society whatsoever, I've talked about this on the show prior. When people came into Ellis Island in the early 1900s, Paul, they came in, they couldn't speak English, probably couldn't pronounce all of their names, all of that stuff. We dealt with that. But what did those individuals do? They embraced the society. They brought elements of it. They brought their Italian food over and all that. And I always talk about Italian and Irish and all that stuff. They brought their culture here, but they acclimated. They're Americans now. Yep. They are from the United States. They are United States of American citizens, and their ancestors were as well, and they wanted to be that. These people want to be Somalian citizens living in the United States.
Also, I will just add to that, because I think you're right, but I also think that in terms of a Western European mindset, all of those people had already kind of functioned together for a long, long time.
Oh, sure.
From a Western European, they were already influencing each other. They had their distinct cultures, but they were already kind of, I mean, the French and the English didn't like each other, but, a lot of English people already spoke French. And a lot of French people spoke English because those two countries had a long history of war between one another, and they had kind of worked things out for the most part. So the idea of taking people from, England, from Ireland, from Scotland, from France, from Germany, and putting them all into one country is not crazy. It wasn't as big of a cultural shock.
Well,
okay, because it's Western civilization forming another country in Western civilization, and that's the huge difference. Is that they were much more homogenous. They were different, but compared to third world Somalis or Muslims, or this guy was from Senegal. Much more homogenous than what we have done. This experiment that we've done with America over the last 50 years, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And people will call us racist, and they'll call us all that stuff, but I'm just like, I've got a very, very good friend who's Asian. He is a Christian conservative. He is probably more American than I am. I mean, the dude, he's got American flags everywhere on his property. So he became a friend of mine about 10 years ago whenever I sold him a property. And this guy, he loves America, everything about America. And I'm like, he's Asian. And he spoke a different language. And I totally, and it's escaping me.
Which Asian country he's from?
Well, it was Southeast. So it was Asian. Not what we would call the other side.
What's an Asian,
when
Rob?
you think of Asians, what do you think of? Do you think of Chinese people, Japanese people, all of that? So is that what you think of?
I think of Chinese and Japanese,
okay,
yes.
But do you also think of the other side of the continent, which are not Chinese and
Indian?
Japanese?
You mean
yes,
India? No,
all of this stuff.
I don't think of India when I think of Asia.
Okay, anyway. So, and I totally forget where he's from. It starts with an S. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. If you're listening, buddy, don't hate me. Anyway, but my whole point of it is this. He came here. He acclimated to the United States. He wanted to be an American citizen. He wanted to be an American. He didn't want to be an Asian person living in America, soaking up all of the benefits here in the United States or committing some kind of fraud. Dude's an engineer, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. So smart, and he works his tail off and provides for his family. That's who we want to welcome. He came here legally. He acclimated to the American society. That's exactly who we would want. Okay? These people who won't do that, who refuse to do that, and then want to scream racism and want to run for Congress like Tlaib and Omar, who...
Don't forget Fandakar or whatever that guy's name is.
Losers.
Yeah.
Losers. Every one of them. Okay?
Fandakar.
Idiots.
With the eyebrows.
Trump totally cooked them at the State of the Union, and they're still simmering about it, right? Yeah. They got smoldering heat from what he gave them. And they hate America. He's so right about it. They hate America, and yet they're serving the citizens. Make it make sense.
So we're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and when we come back, Marco Rubio delivered and briefed the Congress about the specifics of what led up to the attack on Friday or Saturday. And so we're going to have those comments for you when we come back. This is the Paul Harrell Program. We are live on LFA TV. We really appreciate it. We're going to also read some more of your comments when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment.
I'm Brian Norris, retired Army First Sergeant, husband to Kelly, father of 3 amazing girls, and a lifelong Arkansan who puts faith, family, and fair elections first. When Independence County demanded real election transparency, I led the charge, petitioning voters and winning at the Arkansas Supreme Court. Now, Little Rock bureaucrats are punishing counties like Searcy for putting voters first. That's not real conservatism. It's big government overreach in disguise. That's why Trump allies like General Michael Flynn, Mike Lindell, Justice Michael Gableman, Colonel Conrad Reynolds, Senator Wendy Rogers, and Senator Mark Fincham back me. Together, we'll secure Arkansas's elections and inspire the nation. As Secretary of State, I'll implement President Trump's executive order, verify citizenship, replace hackable voting computers, and build trust with verifiable paper ballots. I'll cut red tape for businesses, harness our natural gas and lithium boom, and attract tech jobs to grow Arkansas strong. This is our fight, our future. Join us.
Paid for by Norris for Arkansas.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. Okay, so I mentioned this at the top of the show, so I'm going to kind of just briefly get into this, and then we're going to get to Marco Rubio's comments. But one of the reasons, there was a lot of reasons I voted for President Donald Trump. One of the reasons I voted for him was because as somebody who's kind of a journalist and has looked at the left-wing media bias and has covered it and exposed it ever since I've been doing this, I really appreciated. It took me a while to figure out. It took me a while to figure him out, but I really appreciated how he subverted mainstream media narratives by refusing to admit the presuppositions of their questions as true. He actually would expose them, and really and truly, the Republican Party, in a lot of ways, would never. They didn't learn that by themselves. A lot of them would always try to get the positive headlines from the mainstream media, and they didn't realize, hey, guess what? That's never going to happen. They hate you. They're communists. And so, they might support a Republican if it's the more liberal one in a primary, but then once you get to a general election or anything like that, they're never going to do what you want them to do. So you might as well go into that and attack them relentlessly. That was one of the reasons I supported him. But the main reason I supported him is just because I felt like he represented a generational shift when it came to foreign policy. Now, I voted for him because I didn't want to go to war. I voted for him because I didn't want to go to war in the context of the last 30 years or the foreign policy that basically represents, my entire life, okay? That's one of the reasons I voted for him. And this was actually something that was fleshed out. It was fleshed out in 2016. It was also fleshed out in 2020. There's a reason why nobody is saying the phrase, thank the Lord, by the way. No one is saying the phrase President Nikki Haley. Okay? There's a reason for that, right?
Yes.
It's because there was a primary and everybody knew for sure, if you vote for Nikki Haley, we're going to war everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like everybody knew that, okay? And so that's why there is this, this discussion about this. However, I will say that a guy by the name of Mike Cernovich said something a little bit different that caught my eye on X over the weekend, and I'm going to throw this up here for you because it is something to consider. He says, "This is the first time in my life that right wing," he means to say right, not ring wing. "This is the first time in my life that right-wing warfare tactics are being used." He says, "I'm comfortable admitting that I don't know if it will be different. We have never had a true right-wing military leadership in my lifetime. It was always Harvard Kennedy School careerists."
That is so true.
And so I thought about that because the reason I don't want to go to war, okay, and I know we could debate, is it a war, is it a military invention? I'm not. If you're dropping bombs and people are dying,
Yeah.
to quote Hillary Clinton, what difference?
What difference does it make?
Really,
It's semantics.
It's semantics or whatever. Like they're bombing us, we're bombing them. It's at this point, it is what it is. So just we'll just move forward and try to figure out what the heck's going to happen next. But I thought about that and I said, okay, that is true. I mean, if you look at the foreign policy. Yes, it was about interventionism.
Yeah.
Yes, it was about forever wars. And there was also about the amount of money you can make by prolonging the war, the amount of sheer money.
Yeah, or how much money Lindsey Graham can make.
How much money Lindsey Graham can make,
Yeah.
right? Or how much, like we've got soldiers in Afghanistan for, the security of the people, but they just so happen to be guarding poppy fields. Not saying that happened, but you know what I mean? Like, what exactly is it? Because there is, just on point of substance, there could be a difference there where your foreign policy, and by the way, this is the foreign policy that I used to advocate for back when I was on radio, before I knew.
Just leave it be kind of thing?
Well, no, the foreign policy was, look, why do you have to have troops over there on the ground that are given rules of engagement that put themselves in danger? Why are you treating military assets like it's a police force. When the objective of a military, like when you go there, when you flip that switch, the objective of a military is to kill the enemy the most efficient way possible.
Yeah.
Right? Minimizing casualties, minimizing loss of life. Like, that's it. And clearly with Iraq, and clearly with Afghanistan, and because I talked to soldiers, they were not allowed to do that. They were not allowed to actually fight a war, as horrific as it would be, so it would end.
Talk to a Vietnam veteran about how they would have absolutely ended that war in no time if they were allowed to go into North Vietnam. There was almost like this imaginary line that they had to protect the South Vietnamese by not going too far into North Vietnam. And it's like, no, if you're trying to end this conflict, just end it. The best way, send the ground troops in there, let the best military in the world take over and end it. Otherwise, why the hell are you there?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to a Vietnam vet and ask him, if you had been allowed to go into North Vietnam, would you have won that war?
And they all say yes.
Oh, yeah. Every one of them.
They all say yes.
Oh, by the Singapore. My buddy, I texted him.
Okay.
I texted him. He's from Singapore.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That was that southeastern Asia country I could not think of.
Yeah. So somebody says, let's see, this is River at 1 says, that's right, guys. They put a lot of money in their pockets from wars, 100%. And to some extent, that's going to be unavoidable in any conflict, right? I mean, you're going to launch missiles. You got to make more of them.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to get money from that, right?
Well, I mean, you got people. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, you got people like Lindsey Graham, and we've been critical of Lindsey Graham on this show before just because he's just like, bomb them all.
Yeah.
Just bomb them, blow them to hell, And you're just like, okay, Lindsey, is there another way?
So I don't
know.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
And you just kind of wonder, like, how many of his campaign coffer dollars have been filled by the war machine, and this industrial war complex and all of that stuff. I don't know. I truly believe that Lindsey Graham believes that Vladimir Putin is evil. Okay, but I also think, and do not consider me a Putin apologist, but I think it's too simple of a cop-out to put Putin in this, he's just evil. No, he is Russia first.
Yeah.
He
100%.
is Russia first. Now, he does evil things, but Adolf Hitler, I think, was evil. I mean, when you're killing 6 million Jews, if you're killing that many Jews just because you believe you're trying to create a superior white race, you're just kind of like, okay, that's some stuff out of a book there. But again, I don't want to sound like Vladimir Putin has done some terrible, awful, incredibly terrible things. But I also think that it's too easy of a cop-out, again, to put him in this box of just say, oh, well, he's just evil. Well, he's not out there, but he's not reckless.
Yeah.
He's not reckless because he could have ended this war in Ukraine by completely bombing them. I mean, like, he's got nuclear weapons. As a matter of fact, I believe Russia's got more nuclear weapons than the United States.
It's funny that you bring up Putin because I was thinking the other day, like, my working theory was that you weren't going to have peace in Ukraine and Russia if there was going to be a conflict between a big conflict between Israel and Iran.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting. But you mentioned Lindsey Graham, so I have to go here.
Well, speaking of that, I thought Lindsey Graham was dying Friday with all those wargasms he had.
Yes. Who wrote that?
That is John Yarder. And then go.
So that's the thing. This is my problem. Yeah. Okay, right? Like, so Lindsey Graham is ecstatic, right? He's ecstatic. He can't contain himself.
He's wringing his hands.
Yes, absolutely. Like 100%. Loves the war, and that's an issue with because we could talk about it because we're going to wait and see ridiculous. Like what kind of outcome this is going to be. Obviously, I did not. I mean, I voted for Trump because I didn't want new conflicts and new wars. I get that things change, and we're going to see are these going to be truly like hard-nosed military tactics like you saw in Venezuela? Are we going to get new technology that somehow gets over this giant hurdle that I keep reading about, which is they've got a ton of missiles, we've got missiles, but we may run out of munitions. Like, so what exactly is going to happen?
I don't know.
It's very difficult for me to ever be on the same side of an issue as Lindsey Graham. I'm just going to be real with you. This is just a good time, in my opinion, to share with our audience something that I made. We call this whatever we want to call it, Graham Watch. But
you made this?
Lindsey Graham's really happy. He's a happy guy. He's a really happy guy.
Senator Lindsey Graham loves New Wars.
Loves New Wars.
This segment is called Graham Watch, and it's dedicated to him. We see you, Lady G. You, Lady G.
Just gotta wait for it. It's kind of catchy.
Apparently. What the hell is wrong with you, Paul?
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Listen. The last part is my favorite because
sounds like some Arabs doing a dance.
Middle Eastern, that's why it's too funny.
Okay, but your point is well taken there. That Lindsey Graham never saw a war he didn't like. He's like, oh yeah, they're evil. Just bomb them to hell. And Carl Ben J, man, great. I need to follow him. But watching him, I did not know this, but did Dick Cheney's brother maybe had some kind of connections to the war industrial complex,
made a lot of money.
Nation rebuilding and all of that. Maybe made a lot of money. There's always, if you ever want to find out what the source is, if you ever want to find out what is really going on, it's cliche to say, but there's a reason that cliches exist, folks. Follow the money.
Yeah.
Okay. Asians are good at math. My buddy that just texted me. Really good at math.
The guy who was listening?
Yeah.
He was like,
no, he's not listening. I was texting him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm from Singapore, Rob. I thought we knew each other well. Thanks a lot.
I was just
brother.
like, hey, I almost said his name. I was like, hey, man, where are you from? I forgot. I know it's in Asia, He's like, okay, I'm from Singapore, stupid. That's what he said.
Okay. I know it's in Asia. Asia.
I love that guy.
All right, so again, back to this tweet. Okay, this is the first time in my life right-wing warfare tactics are being used. I'm comfortable admitting that I don't know if it will be any different, and that is the question here.
Yeah. I think we're all that
We
way.
have never had a true right-wing military leadership in my lifetime. It was always Harvard Kennedy School careerists. Okay, so on that, let's go to Marco Rubio, who briefed Congress earlier today and then went out and gave a speech. Now, this press conference he held, he gave us a little bit more insight into how this attack started. And this is good at explaining exactly. Obviously, we were prepared for it in terms of they probably gamed up this potentially could go hot any moment, but this is what actually happened. And listen to what he says here. He says that Israel had determined that they were going to attack, and the United States says that we knew through intelligence that it didn't matter who attacked Iran. If Israel attacked Iran, all of our bases were going to be attacked. The orders because the Iranian this is another thing that I've read. So the Iranian military command at this point, because they knew they could probably assume we were going to try to take out all of their generals and stuff, including their supreme leader, they had already decentralized a lot of their command structure. So it's very decentralized at this point. There is not as much a head of the snake, if you will, that's just going to cut everything off, So he says that Israel was saying, we're going to attack. They knew that was going to happen, and so that's why they went ahead and attacked first.
Before you play this, how long before the attack did we give the shelter down warning for anybody in the region?
Oh man, I want to say that was like a week prior or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because I'll admit that whenever I heard that sort of, hey, shelter in place, if you're danger, get out of there.
When
or
did
whatever.
you hear about it?
So I feel like it was about a week ago, or a little bit more than that. But I don't know. If somebody in the comments, if you remember when that was announced that the people in the region there should get out, if they were Americans, I think specifically is what they said. But anyway. I remember reading that and hearing it and thinking, I think that this is a ploy to tell Iran, you're close, buddy. It's kind of like how you give your kids when they're pushing every boundary, like, hey, one more time.
Well, it's also weird is, speaking of ploys, because who knows, like when I remember when I signed off here on Friday, like one of the last headlines that I saw before I, went home was that, hey, there's negotiations going on, and it looks like it's going to be de-escalated. Like that was like the last. I don't know if it was a Zero Hedge article. I can't remember, but I just saw it flash up in my feed, and I was like, okay, good. Peace, good. And then look at my phone at 2 a.m. and no peace. The attacks had commenced. Okay, here is Rubio earlier today.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would.
So now that is from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He is saying that Israel had determined, we're going to attack. So Trump and Rubio and the gang, they're like, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen, then we are going to get hit. We know we're going to get hit. And so the action then, and we could talk till we're blue in the face about how we got here, okay? But the action then is, if we don't attack first, then more U.S. troops are going to die. Now, we already have.
Well, and that's what Go Away was saying in the comments there, is that, he believes that this that there was a preemptive, this was like a preemptive attack, and that they had initial intel that Iran was planning an attack against, Israel, right, as we're talking about.
Right.
And so I don't know. So
I heard that. I remember hearing that. Like, the idea was like, oh, Iran's attack was imminent, which I didn't really buy at first, and I kind of still don't. This makes a lot more sense. What they're saying is like, oh yeah, Iran's ready. Like, if we get hit, we're going to attack.
Yeah.
What Marco Rubio just said there, I mean, that's his own words. He says Israel decided to attack. We knew they were going to attack, and we knew if they did, our troops were in harm's way, so we had to go first. We had to attack first so that there would be the most minimum amount of loss of life, because we did lose soldiers. We have now, the reports are that we have 4 soldiers. Hang on, where is the there it is. So this was earlier this morning. We've got, I think the actual number is now up to 6 soldiers, because there were 2 who were unaccounted for. I think they've been located. Yeah. But as of this morning, U.S. Tactical Operations Center was hit, resulting in 4 fatalities and several critically wounded. And this is another one of the reasons why, like, nobody wants to see what happened in Austin happen, and nobody wants to see our troops killed. Nobody. That's happened way too often in my short lifetime, and yet here we are. The decision was made, and now we go forward and we see and we figure out, like, well, what does this exactly mean? What does this look like? Is Iran a paper tiger? I don't think they're a paper tiger, but that also means that if this is going to be successful, you're going to see some of the most incredible, if it's successful, I think you're going to see the most incredible military operations in a long time? And do we have next generation tech? That's like we saw in Venezuela.
Well, the point that I was about to make is I think that we did get a little bit spoiled with the Venezuela situation and how we went in there and abducted the, quote, leader of that country. Obviously, he was a dictator who refused to leave after he lost an election. But anyway, I think we got a little bit spoiled by that because we thought, oh wow, look at this, look how awesome the United States military is, and it is. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but what we saw in Iran is more typical of what we would see in such a high-powered attack there. Now, I believe that the Venezuela situation was scaled down, but Maduro was taunting Trump and saying, "Come." He felt like he was secure.
Yes,
he felt like I have a wall in front of me and you can't penetrate it. In the United States, not only did they penetrate it without a single loss of life to American soldiers. We didn't see that in Iran. I don't think that if you would compare the two situations, you would expect to not see that in Iran. It's tragic because we're talking about them like, oh, we've only lost
like we're playing a game of Risk.
6 people. Yeah,
like we're playing a board game here. No,
right.
This is real.
And that's not the way we should feel. And we just say, oh well, I mean, look, good grief, the absolute disastrous withdrawal by Joe Biden with 13 service members lost, that we could talk all day long about that one and how ridiculous, and all of those individuals, and not only those 13 as Trump talks about, and it's likely the same situation that we're going to see here with Iran. It's not just the 13 who died. What about the people who lost their legs and their arms and all of this stuff, and they're maimed for the rest of their life? And we've undoubtedly seen that with Iran, and so we're going to continue to see that fallout. I don't want American soldiers to lose their life. I don't. I don't know how far this is going to go. I would love for this to be just sort of a drone, hypersonic sort of like futuristic war. And forgive my ignorance. I don't know what our capabilities are.
Well, I don't know what the end game is, and the administration needs to really, I think, hammer what the end game of this is. I know President Trump has said, hey, look, we want the Iranian people to take over. This is your opportunity, and to seize the moment. But at the same time, and we got Hegseth's comments in a minute, the administration is saying this is not about nation building. This is not about democracy. We are just there to eliminate a threat. And so the overall goal to me seems like a tall order, because from what I'm hearing or what I'm reading is, it seems like the overall goal is to demilitarize Iran. And that is a tall order.
Yeah, not denuclearize.
Right. No, just demilitarize. And that is going to be difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done. Can it be done without ground troops? I hope so. And that's a huge thing.
Then the only way that you could do it without ground troops, in my opinion, is fear of ground troops. They would have to lay down their arms.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Because they're just waiting for some new leader to rise. And honestly, I don't know how much control the Ayatollah actually had at this point, whether it was him or his council.
Well, you've got reports that people are excited about what's happened and they're in the streets. Then you have people that are allegedly pro-government, and they want to basically use this as a international jihad. Here is more from Rubio, because he kind of lays out where to go from here.
That would precipitate an attack against American forces, and we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
He's right.
Going back to the purpose. The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do, and have been trying to do for a very long time, is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where they can hide behind. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weekend Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now or a year and a half from now the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric.
All right, so he goes on to talk about how, their theology is, their theology is apocalyptic on paper. On paper. It's and very, like they want the end of the world is what we're told.
Yeah,
I have a theory on that, but that's my theory is I don't the ones at the top I think the ones in the middle and everything down are true believers. I don't know if the ones at the top really are. I just don't because a new they're and we're about to find. I mean, we're finding out right now, like. You mess around, you find out your entire civilization. But the idea of nuking anybody, means your entire civilization goes away. And I think a lot of these people, the self-preservation instinct kicks in, and they want to remain in the lap of luxury. Like the rest of their citizens may be suffering, but they're doing pretty great. But then again, on paper, yes, it is a apocalyptic radical theology. So.
I did see a tweet that was from Vladimir Putin, and it said, "Congratulations on the United States eliminating a dictator," and all of this stuff. And of course, I read this. I was like, Vladimir Putin didn't tweet that. There's no way. And the handle was at Putin's nappy nap or something like that. Whatever. Do you know how many people retweeted that?
No.
Including people from the mainstream media?
Oh, no.
Lord have mercy. I'm thought, oh, my gosh, man, you should lose your press credentials if you didn't even look at the handle to determine. And I think the blue check mark kind of throws people off on X anyway, but regardless, I don't know. I don't know sort of what the end goal is here there. And you want to take Marco Rubio at face value and just say, hey, look, we felt like we didn't have a choice because something was imminent. Something was about to happen that had it happened when we knew about it ahead of time and had the ability to stop it, then you would be asking us questions like, why didn't you stop that, right? And it's just Monday morning quarterback. Everybody would look at it to say. So what is the right thing? I don't know what the right thing is, Paul. I don't know because there's so many arguments for everything there. I do know that the world is safer, in my opinion, with the Iranian Islamic regime being out of power. So that's my opinion.
Real quick, and that is the question. So a couple of things from the chat. Carl Benji, six U.S. troops have been killed. 18 U.S. troops have been seriously wounded. So pray for the families, the dead and the injured. And so we have that. And I'll say this when we have this. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read these in real time. Rob just had to step out just for a moment. It may be the plumber. We were expecting a plumber because the studio here, we had a gas leak on Thursday or Friday. You could smell gas throughout the whole building. And so anyway, the gas had to get shut off, and now we need a plumber. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So that may be where he went to what he went to do. So forgive me. We have Har2 says, I heard Trump said they might send boots on the ground via Newsmax. You heard them say that they might send boots on the ground. I have heard that as well. And again, it's one of these things. It is still so early to figure out exactly how this is all going to play out. We still don't know exactly. We're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, boots on the ground is going to be a real tough sell with the public because everybody is going to be thinking, reasonably so, that this is another quagmire, another Iraq, another, the same stuff that we've been dealing with, at least I've been dealing with as a 42-year-old guy like my entire life. So there's that. Was it the plumber here, or was it oh, you just had to step out. Okay, all right, so no plumber. But on your point about boots on the ground, you heard that Trump said leaving the option open for boots on the ground. Mediaite reported that. I had pulled this article, headline, Trump refuses to rule out boots on the ground in Iran. I have to do the right thing. And so this doesn't mean that we're getting boots on the ground, but it does mean that there's if we're not getting boots on the ground, I'll just tell you, Donald Trump is not going to tell people we're not putting boots on the ground when boots on the ground could potentially be leverage, or you're not going to tell the enemy what you're going to do or what you'll never do. That's just stupid. So we won't know until we know.
He's got to make people believe that all options are on the
all
table.
All options are on the table.
I get that. Forgiveness, folks. My bladder was a little full. Had to run down to the bathroom.
I got you. So. I got you. So there's that. Now we get to this. Let's get to Hegseth, shall we? So here's Pete Hegseth from earlier this morning.
And one for Chairman Kane as well. I understand, to your point here, that you don't want to broadcast everything for our adversaries to hear, but the American people also want to know what they're sending their men and women to war for. Is there a concern of this spiraling into a longer war? And then one for the chairman when you're done.
Did you not hear my remarks? I mean,
Hang on a second. Just real quick. He did give remarks earlier.
Yeah.
It was a pretty lengthy speech.
And it was really good,
It
actually.
was. And I've got it here in a minute. But
it was like she just got back from the bathroom, too.
Hang on. It is kind of like this. It's a pretty cold delivery here from
Longer
Pete.
war, and then one for the chairman when you're done.
Did you not hear my remarks?
I'm sorry.
I mean, we're ensuring the mission gets accomplished, but we are very clear-eyed, as the president has been, unlike other presidents, about the foolish policies of the past that recklessly pulled us in to things that were not tethered to actual clear objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So we know. We have plans, we have generals, we have chairmen, we have commanders, CENTCOM commanders, Admiral Cooper, who's executing very deliberately to ensure outcomes that I laid out are accomplished. But we would never, in front of a press pool, lay out how long that may take. The mission for our warfighters, which is what matters to us, is very, very clear. And they're executing it right now violently.
And just for the chairman.
So that's when I brought up, this was the original flow. We're executing it right now violently. Are we going to actually see a true right-wing military leadership that if you do decide to go to war, you actually, you go to war? And this was part of this was part of his remarks. So from the Discern report, headline, Hegseth delivers the speech Washington has owed America for 47 years. Okay, this is Terry Newton's take on what happened. And so he says Secretary of War Pete Hegseth stood before the cameras Monday morning and said what no American Secretary of War in living memory has had the authority or the backbone to say. The United States didn't start the war, they say, but under President Trump. By the way, I mean, from this standpoint, what we just heard Marco Rubio say, Marco Rubio just said, Israel decided they were going to attack. And because Israel decided they were going to attack, the United States, to protect troops, attacked first because they knew if Israel attacked, then we would get attacked. So, you could get into a semantic argument here, but it is it is interesting. It is interesting, the concept of getting pulled into a war.
Sure.
If you go listen to what Marco Rubio just said today, okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyway, the press conference convened to update the nation of Operation Epic Fury was not a typical Pentagon briefing, they write, full of hedged language and bureaucratic fog. It was a reckoning for Iran. So he said a few things. He said that it's lethal, it's precise, and we've heard all that. But he did say, so the administration is saying, for 47 long years, the expansionist and Islamic regime of Tehran has waged a savage one-sided war against America. They don't always declare it openly. They did it through the blood of our people, car bombs in Beirut, rocket attacks on our ships, murders at embassies, roadside bombs in Iraq, Afghanistan, funded and armed by the Iranian Kurds force. he gets into the part. Okay, Iran was building powerful missiles. Where's the part where he talks about democracy? Go ahead and respond.
Well,
to that,
there's a troll in the chats. There's a troll in the chats.
That's
and we're
fine.
just not going to feed. I'm not going to read his. I'm
I
not
like
going to read his handle live on air. But I'll just say that any liberal man, okay, their first step, if they're an adult, their first step should be to look up their local testosterone clinic and make an appointment, because it's obvious if you are a Democrat man, if you are a man who is a liberal who went and voted for Kamala Harris, that voted for Joe Biden, if you are a man who believes that men can be women and women can be men and all of this stuff, if that's what you believe as a liberal retard, I'm going to tell you something. Go visit your local testosterone clinic, because you haven't been able to pleasure a woman in quite some time. And if you are married or have a girlfriend or whoever, or a boyfriend, whatever the case may be, I can tell you this, they'll have a lot more satisfaction if you'll get on some testosterone there, buddy.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to catch up in the comments and I'm still lost. But this is the quote I was looking for. Okay. So, quote, America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. Hegseth then said it was all on our terms, quote, all on our terms with maximum authorities, no stupid rules of engagement. So this is what I think Cernovich is getting at with the right-wing military. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste times. We don't waste time. Now,
no politically correct wars.
Yes.
I think that's ultimately, if you're going there, if you are crossing that line, then cross the line.
Yeah.
And quit p-footing around. I want to say the whole word, but I can't say it.
We'll see. I mean, and that may be it. Like, a lot of people voted for no new wars, and instead you're going to get no politically correct wars. You're going to get war, but it's not going to be politically correct. Yeah. And that may be the meme that you get there from with a Pawn Stars show. You know, best I can do is no politically correct wars.
There you go.
Because it was
best I can do.
it was President Trump that did say he goes into Saudi Arabia during that tour last year and absolutely destroys the neocon foreign policy of the last 30 years, where he basically talked about the hubris and the pride that consumed the mind of America in terms of, or the mind of American, war hawks, that all of these Middle Eastern countries are inferior to us to such a degree that any sort of government structure that we would arrange or force on them would be technically a step of lower intellect. And so, and that might be true when it comes to like average IQs in the area, but that what he said was, but we never understood the culture. We didn't know what we were doing, and we're not going to do that again. And I think it is kind of a catch-22, because I've seen people saying that Trump has no plan for Iran after the fact. He has no plan, and yet the plans, certainly didn't work out with Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that's why he's saying, hey, look, we're bombing you back to the Stone Age. We're going to demilitarize Iran is essentially what I'm getting. Yeah. And it's going to be up to you guys to put together whatever, government you want to put together. Is that going to work out? I have no idea. And I honestly don't know if you can demilitarize Iran, because right now they're launching missiles like crazy, and we're launching missiles. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but they could be shooting their load here and just kind of firing off what they've got. And this could be the last. This could be the dying breath before dawn here. I don't know, but regardless, I think ultimately in the back of their minds, you've got soldiers who are going to be faced with a decision that the Venezuelan soldiers were faced with, and they had Cuban. They had Maduro had Cuban guards guarding him as well.
That went home in shoeboxes. Now on that. Go ahead and finish your thought. But Donald Trump is saying that we still haven't actually done the big attack yet.
Yeah. So that's my point of it is like they're going to be faced with the decision. They're going to be faced with the decision of, do I die for a leaderless country? Do I die for this belief that I have, or do I lay down my arms and I go over here and regroup, and maybe I join in with another regime, or maybe I just reassess my life? I don't know, but I think they're all going to be faced with that decision if they're not already. Because if you think that the United States has done all that it can do, then you're vastly underestimating what we can do. Because you've seen nothing yet. Yeah. And I will say the one last thing about the troll in the comments in our live chat here. We cannot control the live chat. We're still new to the channel, so we don't know if there's a way to block this
LFA TV.
Yeah, LFA TV would be able to do it, but I don't know how to do it, or we would.
What's he doing?
He's just calling people he's calling people. I'm not even going to say it, but FAG, GOT, like he's 14 years old. I think this could be a 14-year-old boy or something like that. That's just kind of going there, and he's mad at me because I called him out for his low testosterone. He's calling me a bald-headed bozo, and
really?
Yeah,
a bozo?
He said I'm a steroid freak.
Steroid.
I've never taken steroids,
Rob
sir. I've never
take
needed
steroids.
to. Never needed to, but.
But he called you a bozo?
Yeah, he called me a bozo. It really hurt my feelings.
Who calls people
Paul.
bozo?
I don't know.
Who calls people bozo?
He's just calling
anymore?
people. He's just.
Have you seen that one
every
Seinfeld?
insult? Yeah, every insult that you ever heard in junior high is this guy in the comments. Like, he has no original comment. He has no intellectual thought. Like, he can't do an intellectual insult. He's just garbage. He's a piece of trash, and he. Probably relieves himself and pleasures himself to posters of Kamala Harris.
So on that, here is Jake Tapper in CNN.
Now he's just saying you're gay. Like, oh my God, I've got a 15-year-old son who's more mature than this guy.
Okay, so yeah, we want this to devolve into like a.
All right. Anyway,
let's
move on to
video game?
intellectual.
This is divulging into Fortnite. Trash talk.
I'll say this: if this person is an actual adult and not a teenager, man, reassess your life.
It's not safe out there. And then the president said it's about to get even less safe. He said, quote, "We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon."
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. So that's what I wanted to highlight, this particular talking point that is out there. President Trump is telling the media the big wave, the big hit hasn't even come yet. So my question is, what are we talking about here? Because I read these guys, I'm listening to as many sources as I possibly can, and what I have heard over the last 18 months, is that any sort of prolonged conflict between Iran and the United States, there is a numbers problem that starts to develop, and that is that Iran has just stockpiled so many weapons, and they are getting rid of them they're
depositing them.
Yeah,
wherever they can.
But they're getting rid of them with the cheapest missiles and saving their big ballistics for the end. And that we, as the United States, I have heard from people that we don't have the stockpiles that we used to have. That we have in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, our assets in the region will be depleted of munitions.
Because we gave them all to Ukraine?
We did give a lot to Ukraine, and those got spent, or they got sold by Zelensky to enrich himself, which absolutely happened, by the way. And so the question is, do we see new military tech displayed in front of the rest of the world, similar to what we heard about? Like, what happened with Venezuela is like everybody's whispering about this technology, like Batman showed up and
like sci-fi movie,
like he came in there and oh man, he's a ghost, But the testimony that we heard from the people on the ground in Venezuela is that our guys went in and were absolutely like superhuman, almost superhuman level technology that we had. And I think there's a combination of AI as well as whatever we have that makes people just become totally discombobulated and bleed from the ears. So do we have technology like that when it comes to direct energy weapons? And do we have direct energy weapons that are going to make the reported lack of munitions that we have Is that going to be irrelevant? And are we about to see something like Venezuela, but in a much bigger concept? Is my question. So, and I don't know.
I don't know. Like a much of a Venezuela, insurgency there, or that's not the word, but a Venezuela operation on steroids. Mm-hmm. Is that what we're going to see?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can tell you the Iranian people, both in the United States, in Iran, and really in Iranians nationwide, and our good friend, well, he's not a good friend of mine. I've never met him, but I feel like he's a good friend because I've listened to his business audiobook and all of that stuff, and I watch him all the time. Patrick Bet-David escaped, Iran and a war-torn Iran. So,
and he's in the news. Did you know that?
He's got a great perspective on all of this stuff. But,
so Patrick Bet-David, this will let you know how fluid everything is.
Yeah, but my whole point is any Iranian.
Sorry,
any Iranian right now is celebrating. Other than these loyalists or whatever, which is such a small minority of the population, and then of course liberal Democrat losers who are just mindless. They have no idea what they're doing. So
all of any Persian I have ever met, that's in America and is like fully Americanized, have been like some of the most they're obviously anti whatever's going on in Iran. Their families had to flee and leave for a reason, and so they are very much a fan of something finally happening in this region. So there's going to be mixed opinions about that. But Patrick Bet-David saying former Iranian president Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Say that 10 times
Mahmoud
fast.
Ahmadinejad, his team reached out to us this morning to inform us that he's still alive. So Khomeini and a bunch of other people were confirmed dead, and there were reports that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Now, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was the president of Iran during the Obama administration, and he was very vocal about the Mahdi, which is the apocalyptic, some sort of antichrist figure or something, about basically, setting the whole world on fire to bring about, forcing the apocalypse. As if, by the way, it's really laughable, but it's like as if you could trick God. What are you going to do? We're going to speed up your second coming, And the same thing happens. Some Christians do this on the right with their eschatology. Well, if we can only get this to happen, then, you're not tying the Lord's hand. And that's the other thing. I can sit here as a Christian and I can talk about how I support the war or I don't support the war. And generally, again, I voted for Trump because I don't want more war. That's why I voted for Trump. And I can sit here and I can say that. And at the end of the day, we are left with what we're left with. And do you know who's in charge of all of this? And that is the Lord Jesus Christ is in charge of every single bit of this.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to call what's going on in Iran, if you want to call it a war, I'm fine with that. If you want to call it a military intervention, I'm fine with that too. I really don't care. But what I can tell you is that the God of heaven has decided to allow what's going on right now to happen because it plays some part in his redemptive plan for mankind and his kingdom. That much I do know.
Yes,
and so,
of course.
There is a lot of people out there, understandably so, upset or happy or everywhere in between, uncertain or whatever.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, from a Christian standpoint, when stuff like this happens, this is where I have to land in order to keep my sanity. But it's not. It's actually freeing and should bring peace.
Right.
To understand that, even though bad, terrible things are happening, because people are dying, that is true and it is awful. But for whatever reason, we know wars and famines and pestilence, all that stuff has always been a part of it, and it's always going to be until Jesus returns.
Very well said, Paul. Very well said, and you're absolutely correct. I'm going to say one last thing. About the troll in the chat. Let's move on. Listen to me, everybody who is in our chat. If you will just ignore him, all he's doing is just casting his low testosterone to an echo chamber within his own mind here. If you will just ignore him, he'll go away. He'll go find another one because that's his whole goal at this point. I mean, he's just calling people losers and, he's using a term I don't use and all of that stuff, a derogatory term for gays. If you will just ignore the troll, I'm sure he'll go away. That may have just fueled him even more. Who knows?
Yeah.
So anyway, the bottom line is, the people on the left, They follow a narrative that the mainstream media tells them. They follow a narrative that just, I mean, these are the same people who were attacking their own fellow citizens during the pandemic because they weren't wearing a mask that came from a box that said does not protect against COVID-19. The box of masks said this will do nothing because it is not the type of mask that would shield you from the particles because they were way too small. And these people are like, oh, you got to be wearing a mask. You could literally be wearing a diaper on your face that does nothing for you. And those people are like, good job. The government said we're supposed to wear this mask and you're wearing it. Good job. You're not wearing the mask. You're not doing what the government said. You're evil. You're trash. You're this. You're that. Those are the people who think we're in a cult. They listen to everything the Biden administration and St. Fauci said. And this is just one example. You've listened to the fact that Trump is racist. He's not, but you believe it because you were told that he's racist. You believe that Trump wasn't even shot, right? That it was all fake and all of this stuff. You believe that on the left, and you have the gall to say that we're in a cult. It's just absolutely asinine. They're the same people that are in the streets right now protesting against the United States because of their intervention in Iran. Not because they're concerned about United States soldiers. No, because if that was the case, I would give them a little bit of validity.
And let's be clear, they don't really care about the people of Iran.
No, they got their $200 to go out and protest. That's what they got. They got their $200 to go out and protest. And they're out there with their sign. There's countless street interviews where you walk up to this stupid leftist and they say, oh, I see your sign, free Palestine. What are you out here? Well, we're going against the Zionists and we're, this and that. And you're like, okay, what do you believe? And they can't tell you what they believe. They don't even know where the Gaza Strip is. They don't even know. They don't even know why it's in dispute and all of this stuff. You're mindless. And the sad thing is you don't know it.
Yeah, speaking of that and the stuff in the streets, there also is positive stuff going down in terms of people,
Man,
like I was
people.
telling you, if you're from Iran or your family's from Iran, you're out in the streets. And so there's this viral clip going on where a CBS reporter in Austin defies a message from a superior telling him to ignore a pro-Trump crowd reacting to Iran. And it got caught on video. Listen to this.
What does that mean?
It means they don't want us to focus on this.
Don't focus on this is what he was told.
All right. Well, I am.
So he says, then he goes on to file the report.
Mixed opinions across Austin about the joint attack between the United States and Israel against Iran that happened early this morning. Some people, like this group behind me, are thanking Trump and the United States government for following through.
So the CBS local affiliate in Austin, he literally read the text, don't focus on this, and then he says, but I am going to focus on it. Because it is news. I mean, forget about wherever you fall on this issue. The protest was there. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to tell people what is going on, and yet the local CBS affiliate in Austin says, no, don't do it because, it's people that are expressing favor of, they're favoring Trump's the action here. So
how dare we show Trump in a positive light?
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. So kudos to that guy for at least being like, no, I'm going to do my job and report on something that's happening on the street in public.
Yeah.
No, don't tell people what's going on in the street in public.
Well, Megyn Kelly was talking about it on her show today. I don't know if anybody of our listeners are crossover with Megyn Kelly. I don't agree with everything that Megyn Kelly says, but I align with her more than I align with some people, on the right.
Well, hang on. Rule of the show. Just so everybody, because I know we have this new great audience or whatever, and you're perfectly welcome, Rob, to qualify when you bring up somebody or whatever,
Yeah.
Megyn Kelly this, like, I don't agree with her everything. That goes without saying.
Sure.
On this program, anybody can cite anybody, and I do not have to have a qualifier. I'm just letting the audience know. We do not have to have qualifiers of this, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but I did hear him say this. That is a leftist mindset to where
Right.
I'm trying to fence myself in case there's something offensive about him that you don't like. I've got to let you know that I don't agree with him on everything, or I don't agree with her on everything. That's what the left does. We're not going to do it here. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. And so, but you just feel
Yeah,
compelled to
you
do
do.
it because
I
we
know.
have such diversity of thought on the right. Right. If I say that Tucker Carlson says something positive, you have to give a precursor to say,
yeah.
you have to give that caveat to say, well, I don't agree with everything that Tucker says. I agree with a lot of what he says, but I don't agree with everything he says.
Right.
Same thing with Megyn Kelly. But she was talking about the directives that are given out at Fox News, and I think she can, above all people, can speak to that. She was there 14 years, and she talked about how the notes that came out are, we're pro-war, we're pro everything that's happening right now, we're pro taking out these dictators and all of that stuff. We are pro it, right? And I'm pro it in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of us, just like you, Paul, who voted for Donald Trump so that there would be no new wars.
Yes.
We're tired of being the world police. There's a movie.
I mean, I voted for him for other reasons too.
Well, absolutely, right? We're not a monolith as
black people are not a monolith. You ever seen that Key and Peele skit with the late Theo Huxtable? Who was who played Theo Huxtable?
Oh yeah, Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a hilarious skit about black Republicans.
Yeah, anyway,
there's sorry,
I know, but there's so many good Republicans out there that have different.
It is
levels
a
of
coalition party.
Correct.
It is the only party where you can even have a debate about different issues within that coalition.
Oh, go away brought up a great point. I wish I'd have said this when I'm in my rant about Fox News about how I agree with 90% of what's said on Fox News.
Yeah,
right. Because I'm a conservative.
What did he say?
But he talks about how you remember in 2020, Fox News called
Arizona.
Yep, Arizona. Right,
they had a communist running. They had a communist running their decision.
Yeah, so I saw a post about it in 2023 after Donald Trump had announced, because I guess it was late 2022 that he announced, his reelection bid, running for reelection again in 2024. But I saw post in 2023. This just in. Kamala Harris wins, or, at that point it was Joe Biden. Joe Biden wins Arizona in the 2024 president. They were calling it before a single vote had been cast, which was just how ridiculous that Fox News was when considering that it got down to several thousand votes, and then you see the fraud that was happening in Maricopa County. What did they know that we didn't know? Yeah. So I have very big frustrations with Fox News. And then they fed the monster by paying out this almost, what was it, $1 billion settlement? It was $900 million that they paid out for these voting machines that we all know are hackable because we've seen it. There are countless videos of it. And so anyway, my whole point of it is, Fox News is just like any other news organization that is given its marching orders. What I love about this chat, what I love about this new group that we have found on Rumble here is that we have
LFA
diversity
TV.
of thought. LFA TV, we have diversity of thought, right? And we've even got, stupid trolls coming in here, like being teenagers and just trying to, all they're trying to do is get a rise out of somebody. But then we see people who, not big on Christianity, not big on Israel, not big on, Donald Trump even, hey, I disagree with some of this stuff. Where are the Epstein files? All of that stuff. That stuff is happening on the right. Where I think that we can all agree is if we will sit back and step back and say 90 to 95% of the stuff we agree on. Okay, so that makes us a pretty good community. Whereas the left, they appear to have some diversity of thought, but when come voting time, what do? Mm-hmm. They coalesce. They coalesce behind somebody. And I've talked about it on the show. Sorry, this is a long rant, but I've talked about it on the show here where Nancy Pelosi, she had the far left wing of her party, and by gosh, they came out and they would gripe and complain and all of this stuff about, but when the vote came to the floor, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all of that stuff, they fell in line and they voted. The Republicans don't do that. We saw a mutiny with McCarthy, right? Get out as the speaker of the House. So the Republicans have this diversity of thought, and it's a good thing because we are not a cult. We don't have this thing. I forgot what my total point was.
Well,
I don't even know. I'm just going on some random rants.
Well,
here.
we're going to pick it back up here when we come back. We got to take a quick commercial break here and hear about 7 Weeks Coffee. 7 Weeks Coffee donating a portion of a bag to pregnancy resource centers.
15% of every sale goes to pregnancy resource centers. So
Exactly.
if you are pro-life and you like coffee, watch this.
Yep. So use promo code Paul. Back here in just a moment.
Behind every precious life, there was a choice. Behind every family moment, behind every special memory, there was a choice. A life of joy. A life that is beautifully and wonderfully made. At 7 Weeks Coffee, we are funding the pro-life movement, one cup at a time. Will you let your coffee serve a greater purpose?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Broadcasting live right now at LFA TV as well as other platforms, television through the digital airwaves in north central Arkansas.
Yeah, hometown TV.
Yeah, as well as other
Which
places.
is why we keep it a little more PC than we
try.
We want to
do our best.
Yeah, I want to let some F-bombs fly every once in a while, but I probably shouldn't.
I just want everybody to think about that for a second because that is actually fantastic. I've made this point before, but let me make it again. The FCC.
Yeah.
The FCC, the FCC decency laws concerning our speech and what we can and can't say is the last remnant of the Christian society, the old
the
guard.
7 dirty words you can't say.
Yes, where blasphemy laws. Okay, those words that you're not supposed to say on a Federal Communication Commission regulated airwave. They spring from the states that had blasphemy laws on the books that were considered constitutional until the 30s in this country. Our sodomy law, the anti-sodomy laws in Texas didn't get overturned. I'm just saying, didn't get overturned until 2001. And I'm just letting everybody know that...
Who advocated for that? Listen. I need some butthole pleasures here.
But my point is this, is that if the United States of America ever went, you hear people say, we got to get back to the founding. We got to get back to the founding. And I agree. But for a lot of people in this country, going back to the founding of this country would feel like a complete revolution. I mean, a total revolution. But as I have told you guys before, I'm a recovering libertarian, and I actually believe that banning things is good sometimes. And,
I think so. And listen, we love... Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry,
you're trying to mute yourself, and you muted me.
Myself, and I muted you. I apologize.
It's okay. But we love our chat. We love our new audience here with LFA TV. We've got other platforms that we stream on, but this one is the most interactive, and so we're again just want to say very appreciative that Jeremy Harrell has invited us onto this channel, and we appreciate all of you guys. We do ask that you do all the things, as Paul said at the top of the show, like, subscribe, find us on X, all of that stuff. These are all newer accounts, so we're still growing them,
Yes.
and so we started from scratch less than a year ago, so all of these things are still growing. But anyway, honored to be on the show. Love chatting with you guys every day. And again, I want to give just one last ringing endorsement for 7 Weeks Coffee because I use it. I drank some this morning. My wife made a special pot last night because she just really wanted some coffee. She doesn't drink coffee at night very often, and she wanted some because it's that good. So it's good coffee, and it's good for a good cause.
You grinding your own now?
Yes, I do. I got a grinder.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't have a grinder account.
No, of course not.
Okay, is that the gay account?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think so, yeah.
Okay, I don't have that.
A coffee grinder.
It's a coffee grinder.
That's what we're talking about, is a coffee grinder. All right, not real quick. Here is Pete Hegseth again from his press conference earlier today about everything going on in the Middle East.
To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force. America...
All right, so you heard him talk about the Navy there. According to Nick Sorter, he was claiming this right here. Nick Sorter claiming that the Pentagon has confirmed that the U.S. military has sunken all 11 Iranian military ships in the Gulf of Oman. 2 days ago, the Iranian regime had 11 ships in the Gulf of Oman. Today, they have 0. Again, this is according to the United States Central Command.
Hey, for Iran, is that bad?
Oh, yeah.
Is that bad?
I would think so.
It's not good. It doesn't sound like.
I would think so. Man, in the meantime, Iran is still, lobbing missiles every which way they can. All of the Arab states in the region, Bahrain, the UAE, and the only Middle Eastern country, Saudi Arabia's been hit. Yeah. I think the only Middle Eastern country that I know of that is not included in this is Egypt. There may be more that I don't know, but Egypt has not been. Egypt has a military, and so they may not want anything to do with Egypt. I can't imagine that they do. But again, the question is: you heard Pete Hegseth say this is not a forever war. It's not going to be that way.
Yeah.
So only time will tell. Will this go on a week? We're hearing now 4 weeks. We're hearing 5 weeks. We're also hearing that that there's a big attack coming, that the biggest attack from us has not even happened yet. What does that mean? And only time is going to tell at this point. It is still it's too early to figure out whether or not this is going to be a forever war like the forever wars of the past.
I think you're absolutely correct about that. I think just going back to how we started this show, we don't know. We're sort of in a wait-and-see moment. Is this going to be like an 11-day war, 10-day war or something?
12-day, I think.
Yeah, 12-day war. So is it going to be like that, or is it going to be another Iraq, 3.0, I guess, at this point, as I said. So I don't know. And I hope it's the former.
Yep. In other news... Excuse me. Hillary Clinton is back in the news. We were talking about her last week, obviously, because she was throwing Bill Clinton under the bus.
No.
Yes, he had a blue dress on.
Yeah.
While
that was a good graphic.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did you come up with that yourself?
Mm-hmm, I did.
You're smart.
I thought to myself, Bill Clinton is like, I didn't know. If I'd have known who he was, if I'd have known what he was doing, as somebody that came from a household of abuse, I would have never had anything to do with that nasty Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm thinking, dude, you are in a blue paint. You're in a painting in Jeffrey Epstein's house with a blue dress on, with your red high heels pointed ever so slightly.
Well, listen, if I'd have known what he was doing while I was on the island with that teenage girl sitting on my lap, if I'd have known what was really happening when we went in the back and she had a different use for a cigar.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're just going to let that one go. Yeah. Anyway, that's disgusting and vile. I'm not trying to say that, trying to make light of what happened there. But Bill Clinton's known as a bit of a whore.
Yep.
And so it's not a surprise that he would have gone to that island.
Yeah, it's no surprise at all. And we talked about how Bill Clinton learned how to Epstein in Arkansas. That's kind of when he went down that path that eventually, you get sicker and sicker and sicker.
True.
And I'll also remind you, in terms of blackmail, Bill Clinton is actually the perfect politician to talk about blackmail. And the reason is just in terms of how it gets, you've got to have it to get more and more severe. Bill Clinton is the politician that where Bill Clinton was the Rubicon. Adultery doesn't matter. Okay? Adultery doesn't matter in American politics. Bill Clinton, he crossed that Rubicon. He gets caught in adultery, nothing happens. His political career doesn't end.
Yeah.
And yes, had there been presidents commit adultery before? Of course. Sure. But this was a public one. He was caught.
It was egg on his face, and I will say that it probably tarnished his legacy right there at the end of his second term and all of that stuff. But listen, what did it matter? The dude still gets $450,000 a year or whatever it is.
Yep.
For the rest of his life.
And he went on to do the Clinton Foundation. He went on to get all of this money when he was giving speeches. He went on, and nobody was ashamed to be associated with Bill Clinton after all that. It was just like whatever.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, any sort of blackmail operations that you might have running at, I don't know, the Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner, doesn't really matter as much. Cheating on your wife with a adult, cheating on getting caught cheating on your wife with an 18, 19, 20-year-old. So if you really want to have leverage, you're going to need to get them. You're going to need to catch them with in adultery and also in statutory rape or straight up, pedophilia with a 6-year-old or whatever. And and so that's why he's kind of the microcosm for the model now, right? Adultery no longer matters, so we got to go down the slippery slope, and we've got to catch them with something that is now statutory, not just statutory rape, but like it's in the statutes.
Correct.
We've got you.
Which it blows my mind that sexual assault has statutory limits in certain states. And honestly, if you want to talk about that there needs to be some sort of thing there, because imagine if a 7-year-old is raped by their stepfather and just don't say anything until they're an adult because of the shame and all of that stuff. They're a 7-year-old, right? And so they don't say anything. There shouldn't be a statute of limitations on that. In a lot of states, there's not, but some states there are, and that's a complete shame. Has Bill Clinton committed a crime? I don't know. I don't know that for sure. Only Bill and his victims, if there are any, will know whether he committed a crime or not. I do think that there's an awful lot of people who have ended up committing suicide. And I want to say, quote, committing suicide around the Clintons.
Yeah, you don't believe somebody can hang themselves from a tree and then shoot themselves in their own chest with a shotgun? You don't believe that can happen?
Yeah. So, and also too, like if you're a Donald Trump, right? And so Bill Clinton, we know about his escapades. But if you're somebody like Donald Trump, who is the most hated man probably that we've ever seen by a third of the country at least, right? And these loyal Democrats here, if you're Donald Trump, do you believe that Donald Trump has raped someone and it has not been brought to a trial or brought to some sort of charge? If you believe that, you're so stupid. If you believe that Joe Biden and his White House was in charge of the Epstein files and there was some sort of smoking gun about Trump and those Epstein files, and they just chose not to believe it when they literally did every single solitary thing else to Donald Trump. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at him. You believe that they had this smoking gun about the Epstein files, and they just sat on it for fear that it would, expose these other people. No, if you're a hardcore Democrat and you believe that Donald Trump is the second coming of Hitler, if you believe that he is Satan in a suit, okay, then you're going to do every single solitary thing you can, including having this smoking gun. And you've got these liberals who will just scream like, this person was raped by Trump. This person was raped by Trump. Say her name. Say her name. No, she wasn't. I'm going to say that. I wasn't in the bedroom at all. I'm going to say that Donald Trump has never had to rape anybody in his life. Billionaires, they don't really have to do that. They don't really have to. If they are as influential and as popular and as celebrity status as Donald Trump, he could have any woman he wanted. Yeah. He married 3 models, folks. Yeah.
But Bill Clinton was not a billionaire.
No, he wasn't.
He was not a billionaire.
No.
He was not famous. And go ask Juanita Broderick about that. And you can follow her online, and she'll give you an earful. Here is Hillary Clinton from the deposition. and she gets asked, I believe this is Lauren Boebert asking her about Pizzagate. And this is what.
Just a second. One thing I'll say about the chat, folks. We'll figure out how to block people in the future because we don't need them hijacking that because they're just absolutely idiots. You know,
Okay.
their liberal lunacy has just infected their brain, and they have no other option but to come on here and just spam the chats from people who are trying to have legitimate conversations. So we'll figure out how to get rid of them in the future.
Here it is.
You described Pizzagate as a baseless conspiracy theory, alleging you and others ran a child sex trafficking ring from a Washington pizzeria basement. Have you reviewed any 2025-2026 Epstein files that were released that you believe reference or relate to those specific 2016 claims regarding the Podesta emails, Comet Ping Pong Pizza used as code possibly?
I'm sorry, does
You're
this
asking
relate-
her about whether
Excuse me.
she's reviewed emails in
In
the
the Epstein
Epstein
files.
files, which relate to the wacky Pizzagate
You
scandal.
could characterize it however you want. I just would like to know if she's familiar with any of them.
So
She's
excuse me,
commenting.
your question is about whether or not she has reviewed any email.
You got two lawyers on either
Yeah.
side that have to restate the question.
Let me lean in here a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, what you know, the wacky Pizzagate thing? Is that what this is about?
This is just debunked stuff here.
in the Epstein release files about Pizzagate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pizzagate was totally made up. It was an outrageous allegation that ended up hurting a number of people, that caused a deranged young man to show up with his assault rifle and shoot up a local pizzeria.
Or, and hear me out now, chat, or show up conveniently to destroy evidence.
Correct.
And now we just get to say it's a conspiracy theory, but she's ignoring the premise of the question. Have you reviewed any of the Epstein files that are now out there that talk about pizza and cheese? And don't forget to bring the cheese holders and grape soda and jerky. And we're not talking about cheese, pizza, grape soda, or jerky. We're not talking about those things. That's not what they're actually saying. Those are clearly code words, which was the entire basis for Pizzagate in the first place, and it's why James Olifantis' Instagram was so creepy with kids with their arms duct taped, all across his Instagram, and it wasn't art, folks. I'm sorry, it's not art.
No, it's not.
It was creepy, and it was these people being out in the open. We thought it would just start with like, oh, I'm out of the closet now, and now it's open like, oh, no, you can be a minor attracted person and just be out in the open with it. And that's what James Olifantis was doing with that.
Absolutely.
creepy art.
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. So I think that the Bill Clinton / Jeffrey Epstein mentality is, kind of cut from the same cloth. Now, I'm not saying that Bill Clinton's a pedophile. I don't know whether he is or not.
Yeah, and I don't know about specifically James Olifantis. I just know the stuff on his Instagram the pictures of those kids on his Instagram was not okay.
Yeah.
That is not something that a good person would ever do. An evil person would post pictures like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's extremely frustrating because it took an act of Congress and then realistically more to threat of legal action to get the Clintons to testify in the first place. And so what are these attorneys going to do? You got two that are leaning in and running interference and all of that stuff. Paul, what do you think that the fallout or at least reaction is going to be once ever this the full video gets released of Hillary Clinton here and Bill Clinton too?
I mean, it's going to be memed and mocked for days.
Sure.
Even CBS News on their TikTok, I believe, posted Clinton's statement after the deposition, and they left the comments open, and I couldn't believe they did it, and the comments were absolutely insane.
Oh, finally, we got the moderator in the chat getting rid of the trolls.
Okay, good. It was absolutely insane, though.
Yeah.
So I think the fallout's going to be, they're not going to go to jail for what they've done, right? There'd have to be an investigation in the Justice Department, and then you'd also have to have courts that had the bravery to prosecute. You'd have to have judges that actually would want to see justice done, but I think there's too many judges that are corrupt And I think this goes for a lot of the justice that we want to see with James Comey or whoever.
Yeah.
I think Eric finally convinced me that even if you do have a Justice Department that does what needs to be done, you have to have judges that are going to be fair and not
Do we believe that judges are going to be fair based off of what we're seeing?
No,
Every one of them.
I don't know.
Judges lost their objectivity, in my opinion, once Trump rose to power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what we're seeing these people expose themselves. We saw this here in the very own state of Arkansas. Tomorrow, Aaron Spencer, for our chat, if you want to look up an Arkansas thing that is
we need to cover this
real, because we need to talk about it tomorrow on the show, and that is Aaron Spencer is running for sheriff in Lonoke County here in Arkansas. Aaron Spencer was arrested because he shot and killed his daughter's kidnapper. His daughters, a man groomed his child, 13-year-old girl, and he was, 64 years old, somewhere around. The dude was in his 60s and groomed a 13-year-old girl, kidnapped her. She went willingly, but a 13-year-old can't make that decision. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's kidnapping in my opinion. Committed an assault, gets arrested for it, is out on bond, and goes after the girl again. Aaron Spencer wakes up to dogs barking at 2 o'clock in the morning and goes to his daughter's room and figures out, it switched to a different app, and figures out that his daughter is missing. So he goes out driving. It's a very small community, goes around looking, finds this dude's vehicle, finds his daughter in there, seeing that there's a struggle. This guy gets out. He's got something in his hand. Aaron Spencer takes him out. 3 shots. Boom. He gets arrested and charged with murder. He was going after his daughter's kidnapper, and he was arrested and charged with murder. So the judge in that she had to be removed by the Arkansas Supreme Court
yep.
because she had an agenda, wouldn't allow all this evidence in, was putting a gag order and all this crap. And in the meantime, Aaron Spencer is running for sheriff of that county because he's like, we can't let this happen to somebody else. And it's going to be incredibly interesting if he wins tomorrow, and then he's about to go on trial for murder. That's going to be interesting. Your county sheriff is going to be going on trial. Look it up, chat. Aaron Spencer. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on the show.
Pretty incredible.
But it goes to the point that I'm trying to make about judges and their agendas.
Yeah, no. And the reason she had the agenda, you mentioned this, right, is because she's the one that let the guy out in the first place who had already molested the daughter the first time.
Yep.
And so, so she doesn't want to be held to account, doesn't want her mistakes aired. And they also don't want any glance at vigilante justice.
That's ridiculous.
If somebody has done that to your daughter, there's not a jury in the world that's going to convict you of protecting your daughter from
any father
a
in the
predator.
chat, any father listening to the show who has a daughter would have done the exact same thing.
All right, we got to wrap up here, and we got to pass it off to the next program. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for watching. We're going to be back here tomorrow. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors: Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, 7 Weeks Coffee, and Sarah Chiropractic. We can't do the show without you, and we'll see you next time.